We're coming up on the end of another quarter, and this is the perfect opportunity for you to stop and assess and just kind of measure what's been happening so far for the last 90 days. You need to do this so that you can stay on track and really hopefully meet your business goals by the end of the year. It's not good enough to do an end of year assessment if you can make some adjustments during the year. Now, as is the case, you're going to get more of what you measure, and I don't really necessarily believe in super high reporting, particularly because I work in an agile kind of mindset and I prefer less documentation. And most of the realtors that I coach are either working by themselves or in a small team. And so it doesn't really necessarily help to have this big, huge command and control discussion about, reporting. However, there's a very simple report and a reporting instrument that you have, and you carry it around all day long. It's called your telephone. And so, at the end of a quarter, what I want you to do is take an hour and open up your phone, open up your calendar, and let's start going through week by week, and let's start seeing how many appointments did you have. An appointment for me, by definition, is a buyer consultation. How many buyer consultations did you have in the last 90 days? And that is, you sat face to face with a customer, a potential buyer, and you asked them all the questions: experience, urgency, ability, status, requirements, motivation. Maybe you referred them to a lender. Maybe you showed them property. So that's an appointment. Now, how do I know that you have that documented? Well, I don't know. I hope that when you were first meeting that person face to face, it was an appointment and it ended up on your calendar. And if it was just spontaneous out of a phone call and you say, "Oh, I'll see you at 10 o'clock. I'll see you at 2 for coffee." Hopefully later that day you documented it. You did your little diary entry, and that is what happened to me today. Hey, I had an appointment today. Okay. Should be pretty easy to go back over the next month or the last month, 2 months, last 90 days. How many of those appointments did you have, right? So how many listing presentations did you give? Same exact thing. Now, I know it should be pretty easy for me to ask this question, but how many listings did you actually sign and have fully executed agreement for listing in the last 90 days? That should be pretty easy for you to measure. And the same with the buy side. How many times did you show a property that resulted in writing an offer and selling a property or getting into a transaction with somebody? How many times did that happen? So I don't necessarily care about your closings in this quarter because that was the activity from the month before maybe. But ultimately, that's your payday. How many paychecks did you get in the quarter? These things are really easy things to track, and if you're not tracking them, you're really at a huge disadvantage when it comes to working with a coach and deciding where are some of maybe my deficiencies, for lack of a better word. Where are the things do I need to fortify? And so, number one, I want you to sit in a quiet place at your home office, your whatever office you call home, and open your calendar. And how many closings did you get paid on? That's how many paychecks. How many times did you show property with a buyer, right? So, and how many buyer interviews did you make, right? And how many listing presentations did you give? Let's face to face with a potential seller. Now, it should be pretty easy for you to go back through your calendar and at least get that done. Okay, now that you have all that written down, fantastic. You can put it in a spreadsheet. I don't care. You can put it on the back of a napkin. It's just a basic thumbnail sketch to understand what your productivity is. Did you actually get paid this month or this last 90 days? Did you get a paycheck this last 90 days? How many listings of those paychecks, how many were buy sides and how many were list sides? Got it. Okay. The next thing I want you to do is go a little bit deeper. Now, maybe you're not quite there yet because you're not keeping good notes in your calendar, but also this is the challenge for you going forward. Now, the next thing you need to measure is these appointments that you have. How did they show up, right? So did someone just fall out of the sky and say, "Hey, come list my property on Tuesday"? Well, I hope that happens, but it probably doesn't happen. So maybe this is somebody that's in your database. Maybe it's someone that you have had some sort of communication with over the last year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Maybe it's a referral from somebody. And so at the point at which that contact was made, in order for you to set the appointment, let me ask you this. Were you the one who initiated that contact, or Was it the prospect contacting you? Super important question, because if the prospect was contacting you, then they were attracted through some type of passive marketing, passive advertising, maybe passive referral. If it was the other way around, if that appointment happened because you actively made a phone call, because you've been sending out CMAs to all the people in your database, you do that every year, and then you send out the CMA, and then you make a phone call and say, "Gosh, did you get that thing I sent you about your house, about your home value?" Oh, you did. Okay, great. No. I understand you're not looking at selling your house today. Got it. But I'm an expert with valuations in your neighborhood, and I track real estate activity in your neighborhood. So be on the lookout. You're going to get this once a year. Do you have any questions about it? Right? So, as a matter of fact, I do have some questions. We have been thinking about selling our property. Ding, 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 ding. That's a proactive, engaged phone call that you initiated that resulted in an appointment. Get the difference? There are passive things that we do on a regular basis, and over time they do accumulate because people are aware of us. They know we're in the business. They like us. They see us as professional. And when it comes time for them to list their home or buy a home, they remember us. Or maybe someone that we know told them about us, and that's a point of entry into a conversation. Still very passive, right? So those are inbound opportunities that are coming through passive activities. I want you to open your calendar. I'm going to ask you this. If we took a look at how you sourced that lead originally and how that lead turned into an appointment, was it from you actively making phone calls, actively doing some sort of outreach activity, and is it noted in your calendar? And so, for example, I love the whole diary method. At the end of the day, I'm like, gosh, you know what? I did make outbound phone calls for a half hour. I did it from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Dear diary, put the entry in there, right? I want to journal the fact that I went ahead and did that. Now, ultimately, I'm going to shift in time and say, well, it's Tuesday, and I did make phone calls for a half hour from 9:30 to 10, and it seemed to work out. You know what? Maybe I'll try that again next Tuesday, right? Worked out this Tuesday. Maybe I'll do it next Tuesday. At that point, what do you got on your hands? Potential time blocking opportunity for you to proactively make phone calls and to proactively have outbound prospecting. Open next Tuesday and click. Half-hour appointment for calling. Better yet, open it up and make it a reoccurring appointment for every Tuesday between 9:30 and 10. Forever. Some days you're going to be able to hold that appointment, some days you're not. Here is the point of stop and assess at the end of this 90-day period of time that I call a quarter, is that you're going to take a look at what your production is, but ultimately I need to get you to the point where you realize there's a correlation between my forecasted opportunities, the things that I'm pushing to do in the future, which is my time blocking. There's a correlation between my time blocking and my productive result. Now, for most of us, look, we're salespeople and we don't have a 90-day attention span. If we had a good day, we're like, man, I had a good day. I got that listing. Or man, I had a good day. We got that check. Great. I want you to start focusing more and more and measuring the activities that are happening during your daytime that are causing these results. Because I tell you what, people that I know that are prospecting and people that I know are adding people to their database and people that I know that they are actively following up with them, I don't need to really ask them too much if in fact they're doing that stuff, because all they need to do is take a look at their closing results. But for me to be able to see that as a coach is one thing. For you to be able to internalize it as a real estate professional is an entirely different thing, which is why I need you to rely heavily on documenting inside your calendar, and then once a month, once every 90 days, once a week, take a look at it. How did things go last week? What did I do last week? Let's open up that calendar, what was documented. You get more of what you measure. So if you're not measuring things and writing them down, you're not going to be able to really put a strategy together. Say, you know what, when I take a look at all this, it seems like, I have all these transactions. It seems like half my time now is all administrative work. Well, that might be an opportunity for you to get an assistant or to start maybe taking the lower value properties that you've been focused on and hand them over to a referral agent so that you can focus on getting your average price point higher. There might be a lot of other things that you can learn from measuring these things. Now, it's never going to get any easier than just writing it down in your calendar, because you carry your phone with you pretty much wherever you are. Can't you just open up your phone and say, had an appointment, met someone at Starbucks, and I met Jim at Starbucks. Great. Didn't plan on it. It was spontaneous, but I put it in there. I'm going to call that a buyer interview, because we sat for a little bit. We talked about looking at property, and but he's got some credit issues we're clearing up. Whatever it is, you need to document these things during your day. Okay, are you tracking with me? So far we measured your actual productivity, which is, did you get paid, and what were your closings, and what were your appointments? And then we kind of took a step deeper into that and said, what were the proactive things that you did in order to set those appointments, the phone calls? What were the time blocked activities that you participated in order to achieve the production results that you did? There's going to be a correlation there. You're going to see it over time. And eventually it's just going to be undeniable. Now, the next thing that you need to measure, and hopefully it's on your calendar, is everything that has to do with your passive outreach activities, your passive outreach. So if making a phone call or sending a private message or setting an appointment to be face-to-face, if that stuff is active marketing, then what is passive marketing? Passive marketing is all of the things that is related to one-way communication. You're sending communication in one direction only. This could be direct mail. It could be EDDM. It could be posting stuff on your social media. It could be sending out emails. It could be all of these things kind of fold up into non-active. It's all passive, one-way communication. You're hoping that someone says, oh, yeah, someone responds, but it doesn't always work like that, as we well know, right? You can work a big database for a long time for outbound communication and maybe only get a few people respond. So in your calendar, if I were to look in your calendar right now, tell me about your marketing campaigns that you engaged in the last 90 days. Tell me about the sequence of emails that you sent out to the people in your database over the last 90 days. Can you maybe point to a template? Yeah, you know what, I sent this out because I had a closing and I wanted to tell people about my closing. And I posted it on social media, but then I also sent it out to all of the people that are in my database. And I also sent it out to people who are kind of on the fence. And so what was your process and method around your passive marketing? And is it on your calendar? Did you commit time to doing that? If you spent time doing it, then it has to be on your calendar. Again, it's simple. I want you to go at the end of every single day and look back over your day. How did you spend your day? Did you send out any emails? Like, I'm not talking about the random follow-up for individual people. I'm talking about the mass communication, the passive information, the blast, the spread, the spray, the information that you're putting out in one direction, letting people know, I'm interesting, I'm professional, you can trust me, and when it comes time for you to transact, I think you should give me a call. Like all this stuff that's going in one direction. Open up your calendar. Are you documenting when this stuff goes out? Are you sending something out to your core database once a month? Email? I don't know. If you're not, I would really hope that you would consider doing it, because the more time that people spend identifying you as a professional, the higher the likelihood is that when you did make the phone call, that they're going to respond. Okay, I covered a lot, and I don't want your head to blow off. It's really simple. I just don't want you to overcomplicate this whole reporting process. If you're getting more of what you're keeping track of, and I just believe this to be 100% a true statement, if you're not keeping track of things, then you're getting more of nothing. Now, this whole discussion isn't designed to be punitive. It's really about revelation, man. You know what? You're absolutely right. I've been avoiding putting things in my calendar because, look, I'm afraid. I don't want to do it. Whatever your resistance level is, this is 100% in your head. It's psychological. And so being able to record the stuff on your calendar and having a reasonable discussion about this with me or some other coach is going to help you stay focused. It's going to help you realize, yeah, you know what? I do have some fears about prospecting. I do have some psychological barriers about getting this stuff done. And the faster you address this stuff, the faster you kind of go in for a deep cleaning, the faster you're going to be productive, and then you can kind of let it go. Now, the truth of the matter is, this is a maintenance issue. I don't care how successful somebody is. We all fall into bad habits. We all fall into routines that are not necessarily productive. If you find yourself in that spot, for goodness sakes, go and book 15 minutes on my calendar. There's no cost or obligation, and I can help you kind of stay aware and navigate through this situation so that you can become more productive. I would love to know a little bit more about how you're running your business, and I'd love to help you.